crowd, so this may be repetitive for some people. That's why we are holding several. There's questions that have been asked before. We're fine with that because we wanted to provide opportunity for everybody to show up and do it. And some people, this was the first time they could attend a meeting of this type. So obviously we're gonna field their questions as they come up. The last couple meetings, we've discussed at length. One of the items that we passed out was a DNR permit that we provided to most people, and this was DNR's version of a rate increase. I think, Jesse, we got about 10 of these, you said? 8 or 10. So if you guys would like a copy or did not receive a copy, want to look at a copy, by all means.
Are these the ones you put up in the post office too?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I've seen it.
Okay, you've seen it. Anybody else want a copy of it?
Please.
You? Okay.
Oh, while you're over
$10.
there. You get ready to do that, only on the freights anyway.
I'll get mine back to you.
Memorize it all.
I'll take one.
Okay. Straight out of our permit. This is online on the internet. We've discussed that. I don't know the new faces that I see in here. Any questions right now? Just straight off about the water. This meeting is specifically for water and sewer rate only. I believe after this meeting they're going to have a regularly scheduled council meeting. Okay, but this is just for the water and sewer rates.
Okay, I got one.
You let me answer this. I think you got one as well, right?
Yeah, where do we stand on the rate increase now? Is all the costs of this thing going to be passed on to the consumers? Are we going to get any help from anywhere?
Yes. Yes. But when you say help, it's not free money. There's no free lunches. Okay? What they're going to do is give you a loan at a very low interest rate. So, there's a possibility you could get a USDA rural development grant. Okay? That's about a $500,000 grant. With the requirements of that grant, generally the cost of the project will increase because there are requirements of this grant that we have to meet to receive it. But that is free money.
Have we followed up on every possibility of
Every possibility? No.
getting money for this thing? I mean,
No, not every
our
possibility.
city government hasn't been doing the best in this thing. Listen, when I was mayor, that sewer treatment plant kept me awake at night. I'm sure Betty McPherson felt the same way.
She knew you were going to say that. She
That's
left.
a prime responsibility for the
Big.
city.
Probably one of the
And
largest.
what happened to it?
Got old.
I used to have people in training constantly, always, to take over that place in case anything happened. And now it's a mess, a horrible mess. What happened?
We
Can you explain what happened to the thing?
the operation of it.
Is there, I mean, let's face it, there's some responsibility somewhere. What happened to our treatment plant? It used to be a great place. It used to run real well.
Okay. Real well for the times.
Yeah, it ran real well.
For the times.
It ran for years real well.
The
I had a great guy there. We were so good they stole him over in Waynesville.
yeah. That's what you just said is some of what we face. We face good employees improving their position in Waynesville, Fort Leonard Wood. Okay. When we just recently have 2 new operators in the city. Okay. And we train them to become operators, and pretty soon Fort Wood needs an operator, and you can't blame a guy for, applying for the position. And if he gets the position, our operator's gone, and we start again. That's one thing that's happened. It's common, but it happens. Another thing is, in 1980, we had a totally different requirement of effluent to me than today. Okay? The effluent of today is far better than the effluent of 1980, 85. When the 80 was roughly when the plant was built, okay, 1980, 81. The effluent requirements in 1980, 81 were minimal compared to today's standards. Okay, we're treating now for we will be treating for E. coli. Our limits are much lower than 1980, 81. So instead of having you know, we're probably treating for 3 things that weren't on the permit in 80, 81, and the things that were at a much lower level than that. So the treatment requirement is ever changing, and we get, you know, don't think that you hit the target that you're there, because you're not. In 5 years, DNR is going to come back and say, oh, by the way, we need to treat for phosphorus, or we got to treat for this. So they constantly got you on your toes looking down the road.
They're saying we have to keep up.
We need to keep up with the change. That's correct. That's correct. I seen Bob's hand first. Bob?
Right, Diane
He's
had
not-
was.
Diane, go ahead.
When I was on the council, I did a walkthrough with the technician that was there,
Mhm.
and I learned how the system functioned, and I did it in 2 days.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
What it was is, the sludge pits hadn't been emptied in like 10 years.
Yeah, I remember
Okay.
that.
And look at the extended amount of money that we put, how many thousands of dollars, I think it was like $80,000 we put into getting rid of the sludge that was there for 10 years.
We had a lot of sludge in the system,
okay.
correct.
And then you have, when he did the walkthrough, okay, you had one clarifier that had been down for over 10 years, okay, you had one operating clarifier, okay? So that operating clarifier, had it gone down, well then you'd have had no way to complete the treatment. Because once it goes through the aerator pit, then, you know, it goes through the changes and then gets to the clarifier and the water split and all the solids go to the bottom.
Right.
Okay? But point being is, over 90% of the valves didn't even work. And see, this is just pure neglect is what it is, okay?
Some
mean,
of it I would
seriously,
agree
John, when you
with.
look at it as pure neglect.
Let's keep in mind the age of it. It is
It
not.
doesn't matter, I did HVAC for 20 years, okay?
If I get 30 years out of my air conditioner, I'm an excited guy.
Well, you're only 15, really, to be honest.
Okay.
But my point being is, had this been taken care of as it occurred,
Yes. No,
okay?
I agree with that. But keep in mind, these parts and pieces that are failing are 35 years
There's no
old.
excuse because you upgrade.
Preventative maintenance goes a long way.
Sure. No, that's true.
Yeah.
And it hits all at once. This has hit over several years. There's no denying that. There's no
It's just
denying
pure
that.
neglect when you look at it. Seriously, it truly is. There's no excuse for it, John.
Right.
It's neglect, okay? It's the inability of the technician to be properly trained, to have the proper equipment, and to do the job the way it's supposed to be done. And maybe even have a little help once in a while when you have something that's a little bit more strenuous for one person. Because that's what I saw when I went down there.
There is neglect in the system, but
You know, I
Diane,
built
they
that
got 2
second
people down there now.
sludge basin in an effort to keep us up to
right,
the building, and I noticed it wasn't even being used.
it does get used. It is being used. So I'm not sure if you were down there and it was empty, it had probably been empty. But it has been full. There's not been a time where we've not used it.
John, that
We
thing was
use it.
emptied back in 2014, 2015 and on up.
Right. We keep our sludge moving now. Okay. And the valves at the plant have been replaced for the operation of the treatment plant.
Well, that's kind of nice.
It's really nice. Not kind of nice. It's really nice to be
And I
able
know that the
to.
technician that was down there had drained both of the lagoons, and the crap that was in the lagoons, he scraped it all out with a bobcat and stuff. So I mean, he had to chair it, and then guys took him out of it because he was doing his job a little bit too good. That's the way I see it.
You know, there's impeccable records that are kept on that place. That's one thing the DNR requires. Did you ever have any problems with the thing when you were mayor? You never,
You mean with
with the treatment plant?
it was a constant, I mean, you know,
I mean, they never fined you. You know,
Never.
it ran good when you were mayor, didn't it?
it ran.
It ran good when I was mayor. Somewhere along the line, it started going, what the heck? And you've got the records for it. Where did it start to go bad?
2008. When did we do the bond issue?
Oh, when did we do it? 2008?
Right in there, just prior to that, 6, 7, or 8. We had, there was just one incident. It didn't go bad. There was a,
Somebody dropped the ball on the place. That's
Well,
what I
okay,
want to
if
know. That's the question
we
I'm
had
asking.
one employee who turned a valve in the wrong position and left it throughout the entire weekend. That's the one isolated event that started this whole thing. He comes in Monday, and the entire creek is wasted too.
Has anybody ever been held responsible for what's happened to this thing?
I don't
It's
know.
like always, nobody's responsible, right?
I guess.
Except the taxpayer.
Moving on, bottom line, the treatment plant has seen massive upgrades in the last 5 years. Massive. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. But due to requirements that not a mayor before has seen, set by DNR, we have to continue to move. We're not done. We're halfway through this race. Okay? DNR said you got to look upstream and you got to fix your I&I issue. In 1980, when was you mayor?
1980?
Yeah, you wasn't mayor in 80.
No.
Around 94, 95.
Yeah. Okay, we had I&I issues in 94, 95, all the way through to a few years ago. Major I&I issues. That's pounding this plant. So you want to know who's to blame? Everybody from 1980 to present, because nobody in those years took and said, our I&I upstream is pounding this plant. We are getting rain in this treatment plant, and you will see flows from 180, 200,000 gallons a day to 1 million gallons in a day. One rainstorm.
We shouldn't be able to count on the man who's in charge of the sewer plant to bring us, why wasn't he aware of that?
Well, no, I'm just saying, I'm not placing blame anywhere. I just want you to know, in the history of this plant, we're all to blame, to some extent.
But see, can't you take and blame some of that on the leakage that we had in the sewer lines before they were replaced? Because,
that's
I mean,
what
there
I'm
was
saying.
no way for that man to control
We had
that.
no replacement. We had lines, 1940, I found records of sewer lines placed in this town in
So
1940.
he was fighting an uphill battle.
So,
is what he was
I
doing.
mean, that's nearing 100
That's
years
older
old,
than me.
okay,
Well, we got both water and sewer lines still that old.
in that age group. So what we're looking at is, you know, it's a combination of things, and since 2008 is when it really got addressed. That's when the money really started getting spent. The first $1 million was spent upstream, not at the treatment plant, upstream. The collection system is where it was spent. 987,000, I think, is what was spent upstream. Okay? The second step then, and we've seen benefits of that at the treatment plant. Immediately our peaks dropped. Okay? Once that is in check, you go downstream. However, if you've been tracking the I&I at the plant, it'll continue to go up because there's more lines upstream that are of that age that we need to continue to smoke test, search, camera, look for, repair, and replace. This I&I battle is a continuing battle. It never stops. Okay? And we're down at the plant now looking at changing treatment types. Okay? Why are we changing treatment types? Because our requirements have changed. So that is why we're back at the plant. Don't think you're finished when you get to the plant. You need to bounce right back up to the collection system and go through every single line, even ones you've repaired and replaced, just to see. You don't know if a road grader hit the line. You don't know if a road grader hit a service line. You could have a 4-inch service line coming from my house to the main, and I could be pouring water into this thing when it rains, and, you know, I don't know it's broke, but it's
But
causing
that will
the
come
city
out in the
issues.
figures and in the amount of water that falls into the lagoon.
It does.
I mean, if you can, you regulate that.
How do you find it? I know it's coming. I know it's there. I see it every time it rains. I just know that it's upstream of the plant. It's in our collection system, and it is a city issue. And it's not just here. I got I&I at every treatment plant that I work at. Every one that I'm at, I see, and it's considerable. And it is impossible to eliminate I&I. You will always live with it. You will never get it eliminated. But you need to continue to strive to decrease it at every corner. Yes, ma'am.
I respect everything you're saying, John.
Mm-hmm.
But now, as a taxpayer, and we're here tonight to know that our rates need to be raised. No question about that. Of course they do. What bothers me the most is we have gone through a period where we had to make 3 huge advances to the taxpayer, to the water bill payer, to the sewer plant. We need to get in a process that we're doing part of that every year, so
Yes,
it
ma'am.
is not.
No doubt. We talked about this a little bit at the last council meeting, I believe. If it wasn't, it was at this last meeting. We're kind of mixing the two together so we give everybody a chance to speak or say something. Ordinance has it that the sewer and water rates will increase 5% every year, period. That is ordinance. By ordinance, we should have been doing this every year, by ordinance of this city. We have not raised the sewer rates since 2008.
Yes.
Okay, now, Betty Tilges, I think you guys know her. Okay, Councilwoman's here. Anyway, glad you could make it.
Thank you. I was outside
Okay.
talking to, I was here.
So, in speaking with this council and stuff, and at that meeting, I remember it, that they didn't like that ordinance. They didn't, and here's why. I don't either. How do I know it's 5%? Here's what I say. It maybe should raise. Let's talk about it every year. Let's not talk about it in 2008, because you was on council then when it passed, I remember, because you went door to door. We haven't spoke about it since.
That ordinance was original ordinance was 2003.
Okay, 2003 is when that went into effect, in 2003. I believe I do remember some sort of 2003, 4, and 5, maybe they raised it, and it just went away.
Well, and that was the
4 and
saddest
5 they
part.
raised it.
They didn't. You remember when Mayor French?
Mm-hmm.
He had to hit us 3 times. I mean, people were. If we had done percent or whatever percentage you find necessary by the year, you would just flow into that.
That's correct. And I think it's something that the ordinance should be written instead of setting a specific amount. I believe it should be written to bring everybody to the table to talk about what amount it should be raised. 5% is arbitrary.
Okay.
It might be 7, but it might be 2. If you're looking at your rates compared to the other rates that you see statewide, and you're good, maybe it's nothing for a year. You may be good actually for a year. But the 5% is just something that doesn't bring these people at this table to discuss the rates of the city. And I think it's important to discuss that once yearly.
Thank you.
So that's and just by throwing a number at it, you may just put blinders on the horse and they never really look at what they're raising. They just raise it 5% because that's what the ordinance says, and we're good to go for the next year. So,
See, everybody wants to compare us to everybody else, but we're not everybody else.
and I'm
We're a
going
smaller
to give
community.
these 2 ex-mayors a little break. In 1980, I happen to know because I went to a couple conferences, DNR would have told you dilution is the solution. What that means is the more stormwater I can mix with sewer, then it dilutes the sewer and I can discharge it to the creek. Now you will never hear them say that today, but in 1980 to probably about 94 or 5, that's what they would tell you. So I wasn't, quote, really an issue back then because you were introducing they call it storm sewer.
You're saying I. Tell me what
Inflow
that
and infiltration.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, inflow and infiltration, okay, is what I stands for. Inflow is a direct stream, creek. It is a direct, you're introducing stormwater directly to your line, okay? So if you got a ditch and you got a hole in your line and your ditch is running full and it falls into your line and fills your line, that's inflow. You see it immediate at the plant. Within an hour, your treatment plant starts to spike, increase, okay?
Well, what's my corner doing to the?
That could be a combination of both. I is slowly seeping through the joints. So you've got a rain that hits and it filtrates through the soil, gets down on your pipe, and maybe it infiltrates through a crack in your pipe. That's infiltration.
I
Okay.
would know that because of pressure, right?
Yes, yes.
But with the constant flow of the water, finally, even though, I mean, we haven't had rain,
Right.
but we have that constant flow, would that make it, would that seep down into it?
It could. The lines in that area, sewer lines, are going to be, they'll actually probably even test. I'm not concerned about those. Your major contributors typically are, we do smoke testing occasionally. What you're looking for is age of house. There was a period of time in about mid-50s to late 60s where the houses that were built at that time took the downspouts or the gutters of that house, tied directly into the sewer line and right on out to a septic tank and or a city main. Well, if you took the roof drains of all the houses in the city of Dixon and took to our sewer plant, it would wash it away. So we look for those, you smoke test. If you see smoke coming out the gutters, then you know this guy's gutter's hooked to your main and you need to find out how to get them unhooked.
I have one more question I want to ask, and
Go ahead.
Pam, I know you're interested in talking about training people,
Mhm.
get them into a certain position, and then bingo, they get a better job. Is there, are we not allowed to get, after we pay for the training, to ask for a contingency?
They're looking at that.
That's, a lot of jobs are that
Sure.
way. They pay for your
Most of them.
training and
Stay until it's paid.
you say, if they'll pay for your training, you'll work.
An
you'll-
apprenticeship
Yes.
of some
For,
sort.
so, and we should do that, if we're, if the
They're
city
looking
is
at that.
paying for that.
Your council is looking at that very hard, at getting a ordinance put together for an apprenticeship, not only in the sewer, but also the water license part of it. So, I promise you, they're working on that, I know.
Should be able to assign people to contracts when you
Yeah,
train them.
Sure.
Why wouldn't that be with your
One
employment?
question that I'd like to ask, which really bothers me, and that's this. This is, the sewer treatment thing is primarily a health issue when you get down to the basics. And there's a lot of help out there financially for an issue like this, of all kinds. Have we explored every channel for financial assistance here? You know, this is what bothers me. I know the way our city government seems to work. I doubt seriously.
No, I told you.
Whose job is it
Straight up.
to ask for that money?
You would hit the big ones. There are lots of channels.
I know there are.
And it is hard to find them all, to be honest with you. There are several channels. You want to look for your main contributors, which are generally federally funded,
Yeah.
okay? When those make it into the federal budget, if you see like your USDA gets a lot of federal money for grants and loans, okay?
I mean, we can call this an emergency deal. This is an emergency as far as we're concerned.
It is
We don't
an
have the
emergency.
money to pay for it, and it's a health issue. Why can't we appeal to the federal government and say, look, this is a critical health issue for our community. We need the dough, and we need it now. Why isn't somebody in our government doing this?
What
We're
we've
sitting here
looked at,
talking about it. We're talking about a trailer when we're in problem.
okay,
When
I'll
we've got
keep
a
that
real
for the
problem.
council meeting,
You
okay?
know?
Yeah.
It's
No,
crazy.
I understand what you're
It's gonna
saying.
be somebody's job to look for
We
grants.
have, here's what DNR is gonna tell you. We have met with them. When I say we, I know Betty met, specifically, me and her sat side by side when they were there. Come see us about the state revolving fund, SRF. We can get you a loan for a very low interest rate. Okay, there's an option that we've explored, and it's in this, okay? Is that the option we're going with now? I'm not saying that, I don't know yet. But it's a good option, okay? Another option, like I said earlier, was USDA Rural Development. They offered grants up to $500,000, up to. We probably will not qualify for the $500,000 because they're looking at a large, okay, multi-million-dollar project, okay? But there's money there that is ours we should be able to get.
Are we working on it?
You won't do SRF and USDA, so yeah, that's an option. That is something we're looking at.
Okay.
And then obviously we have the bond capacity still in play. That's an option.
Which we have to pay for.
We have to pay for all of them. No free lunches.
What's the timeline?
Plus interest.
There'll be interest on all of them. I like the interest of SRF better than the bonds at this time. That's just straight up what I like.
Well, and the secret is, if we're turned down once, we do a constant, because we all know that those grants and everything are political. You're in line. We know that.
We're in a line. That's
Yeah, if
great.
you get the Congress and state representatives, state senators.
To write letters
write
for
letters
your
to them,
cause.
it'll help out a lot.
I appreciate these guys' passion, and I hope that I see some volunteers here very soon on this. Honestly, guys, there's a lot to city government. A few of you guys know that. A lot. It has many faces. It's around every corner. You go to the post office to check your mail, that's no longer a 5-minute job when you sit at this table. It can turn into half a day if the right issues happen and the right people see you. You have a job to do at that point. There's a lot of things to it. So I hesitate to jump on this table and tell these people, because I see how hard they work. I've been at meetings with them till way too early in the morning. They've got some good things working, okay? They are working. I promise you. I sat there, I see them working. Yes, there are some things we need to investigate. Go ahead.
Can we get off the sewer and get onto some water?
Okay, jump on the water.
All right, I have a problem, all right? I have a problem with the pump towers running and dumping well water into the ditches for almost a week, okay? To me, that's pure negligence. Why is this water being wasted? Why are these pumps being turned on if the tower's full? That's obviously why it's
Sure.
overflowing, right? So why are we even turning the pumps on?
Okay.
I mean, is there not something
Yeah,
we
'cause
could
this
do
is-
where
this
you can
tower out
assign
here
people to come in?
It was overflowing Thursday and over the weekend both.
Yeah, I've seen it flow down my ditch the whole
Continuous
week.
or at separate times?
No.
Well, I know
continuous.
Thursday was running continuously.
Continuous.
That tower out there Saturday morning run from 6:30, 7 o'clock. I went by here till we got through the plumbing job here at 1:30, 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
5-gallon bucket couldn't hold the water run down that ditch in 1 second.
I mean, it's a lot of water,
Right.
John. And
Okay.
if it's on a well, we're in a drought. Eventually that well's gonna run dry. Are we gonna have the money to drill for a deeper well? Or what? I mean, because you're gonna charge us more money for water, but you're wasting so much.
One thing I will tell you.
Are we at a 40th percentile rate of
What about
waste?
that leak up there at Homer's?
Yeah,
At the-
we've addressed that several times.
Yeah, it's still,
There are some things happening with getting the leaks fixed. I want to talk about the towers and the overflow of this tower. Have you ever seen the high school tower overflow?
It's got a shut off on, John.
Have you ever seen? No, it's
No.
still got an overflow pipe.
Yeah, it's got a shut
Will
off
it
on it.
overflow? Can it? The answer is no. You've never seen it. I already know the answer. It's a
You know
loaded
what they
question.
did a long time ago?
You know why it doesn't
They
overflow?
turned that water off up at
Because this
Baines.
tower's lower. This is your lowest tower.
Well,
So
what
what
is the
happens is-
$92,000 that we can't pay to fix it, that Mrs. Vale's been
Well,
about?
the elevation issues would be something called an altitude valve. It's a mechanical valve.
Okay.
How about-
Maybe it will work, but it's not 100% fail-proof. It will fail as well.
How about a
it's
simple
mechanical.
overflow similar to your tank in a toilet? You got a float that comes up and shuts it off.
That's it. That's what an altitude valve does, and it's not fail-proof. Okay. A SCADA system to shut the tower off at exactly the precise time. You're talking probably about 40 grand to communicate between the towers.
Okay,
All right,
so
let's do it.
let's put that against the water you're wasting.
Understand,
Okay?
understand.
We're talking about a substantial amount of water, okay? And this water is going straight down the ditch and into the sewer plant itself, so the sewer plant has to treat, water that doesn't need to be treated, okay? So you're wasting it on both ends. But what I'm trying to get at is there's ways to do this. You can put timers on those pumps, okay? And those pumps will work effectively. If you get people that are faithful enough to go out there and do the maintenance and the upkeep and do the checks, if they keep inventory sheets and everything else, then you'll know exactly what's going on. But see, none of that is done. None of that is done. They spend too much windshield time, doubled up in a truck and riding around doing nothing.
John?
When they should be out here doing some
Back
things
in the
for the
80s,
community.
I want
Let
to
me
say
explain
something
something.
before we go any further. Hold it. Y'all are ganging up on me here. We're getting beat down. First of all, it is done, but it's not been done for a long time. But
Well, there you go.
it is being done, okay? And it's probably been done almost a year. I can't remember when our meeting with DNR was, but it's been for sure 8 months. So it has been being done not only on the well
It should be a
side.
monthly preventive program, okay? It should be a monthly thing, John, not every 6 months to
It's a
year?
daily. This
Is
is
it
a,
daily?
this is a
Okay.
daily,
All right.
yeah, daily log.
Okay, if
that
it's
is being
daily,
kept.
then how come
Right.
you've got water running for a week in a ditch? I don't understand that. I don't understand
How
that
many of those
principle.
logs are pencil width?
Well, I hope none. I mean, I'm
Well,
just,
it's got, if this has
just
been,
gonna be
if
honest
this,
with you.
this drains out for 3-4 days,
Yeah.
If it's draining for 3 or 4 days straight, yeah, there's an issue. If it drains for 2 or 3 hours, that I can explain. I know
mean,
what that is.
I called the city hall, city
But if
clerk.
it's 24 hours a day for 3 days straight, without stop or anything, yeah, there's an issue. But I don't know if it's done that. I wasn't here this weekend.
I'm telling you it doesn't.
John,
That's why I'm
Thursday.
telling you.
Thursday, it was probably about 11 o'clock or so when I called the city hall
Mhm.
concerning this. And by 5:30 it was still running.
I've seen it run from
They
Wednesday
did not,
to Monday.
could not get hold of maintenance.
Okay. And here's what I'll tell you. The 2 or 3 hour deal, once they shut the pump off, this thing doesn't quit running. It's going to continue to overflow, and here's why. That tower is higher than this tower. Our pumps will pump more than what the outflow will let it, so we start filling this tower. And your high school tower gets full, and then once you shut the pumps off, then it's got to get down to a level that is level with this one. Both tanks will be level. The
So there's
elevation of-
nothing broken on this. So
It's
where
just-
did the $92,000, we don't have that money?
Well, that was a pump. That was a well pump. The park well. Not the tower, the well.
Oh, and it can't be fixed, because we don't have the money.
That was the casing. And was that Baden's well? Okay, Baden's well's down. That is the casing and pump at Baden's well, is what that was.
Well, then, this has been totally misconstrued, because Mrs. Mayo even called DNR. But to have that in her creek and call and be told that something is broken that costs $92,000 and we don't have it.
Yeah, we have it, because when they did the last bond, they collected the money. There was $300,000 in the water, and there was $300,000 in the sewer. Okay, so they're not telling you the truth. Okay, and what happened to that money, John? You and I know it's there. I remember seeing it. I remember seeing it on the books. Okay, that was money that was collected from the last bond. Okay, when you increased the water rates and the sewer rates. Okay, that money was put into those accounts. And it amounted to $362,000 in one account and 300 and some thousand in another. And you said it couldn't be used, okay?
We have probably, there was 2 years of payment that the bond company would call a rainy day fund, okay? Which is isolated and can't be touched. So if you cannot make your payment, then you can go for a year or 2 and still make your payment with this fund. I do know that is a requirement of the bond.
But see, you told me that out of the sewer money, that money could have been used to get the materials needed to bring that clarifier up at the sewer thing. We could have taken it out of that money. 'Cause in
We
order
put
to
the
qualify-
oxidation
Let me tell you
ditch.
what you told me, okay? You told me that we had to use up at least 200,000 of that before we would qualify for another bond,
And we did.
okay?
And I can account for every penny of it.
Okay, and I'm not saying you can't. But what I'm saying is, if you're gonna use 2/3 of the money, then it should be used to keep the equipment up and running
We
and
are.
make it functional, okay? I mean, isn't that part of
Okay, oxidation ditch, $120,000 spent, okay? Clarifier, another $30,000 spent, okay? Inside the lab, I mean, your treatment plant, and this is spent on money that this city had. We haven't bonded this, we haven't SRF this, we haven't spent any of our borrowing power to improve what we've improved so far, okay? And we are a long ways down the road with that. A long ways.
So now, this increase that you're getting put on us for water and sewer will be, what, 5 apiece? So it's actually a $10 increase, right?
I'm hearing like 4 something, and I'm hearing so.
Well, they gotta
They were
collect it
talking
for both.
464 DNR for sewer rate,
Sewer rate,
Okay, for
correct.
sewer
which
rate,
would
and then we have a water
be
rate
equal on the
too,
water
right?
side.
I haven't discussed that. I'm here for the sewer because I'm looking at the treatment plant and UV light.
Well, usually
This
when
is
they do
sewer.
sewer, they do water anyway, so get ready for
Yeah,
it.
but the sewer and water rates are tied together.
Correct. By
How much
ordinance.
water is pumped for water is equal to the sewer.
They are tied, correct. And they are also tied together by rate, or by ordinance, with being able to spend, they are as one. Okay? There's one account for sewer and or water. So you could spend that money for sewer and or water. Okay? Yes, sir.
Let me shut that tower off up there at a level where it won't.
You can't, but keep in mind how this thing fills. The way a tower is designed is you got a fill line going up to the tower. That fill line is at the top of where they want to fill it to. Okay? So when you're sitting there, there's no way to know how full your tower is because your fill line's always full. You can read the pressure down here at the bottom of the tower where our pump house is, but your pressure is always going to read the same because your fill line's always full. Well, the water in the tank could be down here. Well, that's a bad deal. But you don't know it's down here because you're reading the pressure on the fill line. That's the only line that we have into that tank. That's why when you do a SCADA system, it reads the tank level. So if your fill line's full, which it always is full, because if you've pumped water up to fill this tank, then this line stays full. Then as it goes down in the tank, then the fill line's always full.
So with that leak that we have, would that be coming from that pump up there?
All of them. Both towers are interconnected, so both towers feed the entire town. Does that make sense? So we're interconnected with our two supply systems.
And that's the way you
sources.
want it. I mean, that
Yes, that
average-
is, you want everything looped and tied together that you could possibly have tied together.
Okay.
That increases the flow. Go ahead.
You're our engineer and we're paying you to get us out of this mess. If by some miracle we do manage to get our way out of it, I'd like to think a little bit about the future. And if we do get out of it and get everything up and running fine, I'd like you to think about helping our city government set up a system that will keep the plant functioning. To have a procedure so where it'll keep it up to date, keep qualified operators.
On staff.
It's a system where we don't find ourselves again without a qualified operator out there.
And the
There's
key,
got to be a hard system where we always have a standby operator somewhere.
I would hate to say a hard system, but I will tell you that in my opinion, you train everybody. Every employee needs training. They need certification. They need licenses. Everyone. Every one of them does. I would love for every employee of the city of Dixon to have their Class B wastewater operator's license and their water distribution license. That would be perfect, because then I would be sitting here with 8 or 9 licenses on each side. That's not reality.
I always have a man in Jefferson City in training. Always.
We have 2, 3 going for water soon. Okay.
For water, we have 3 sewer licenses.
So right now we have right now currently I know we have 3 sewer licenses with our staff. We have 0 water licenses. We're sending 3 to the training and class.
And 1 is testing out, so potentially by the end of January we'll have 4 water licenses.
4 water licenses. And that is
we
a
need
goal.
to think in the future so
And you
we
got
don't
to
get back into
And you
this.
got to continue that. You need to grab the next guy in line that is the lowest maintenance guy, regardless of what he's doing, and bring him up and say, hey,
Then
you're going to have to get a
you
license.
definitely are gonna have to build a system where they can't run out the door the minute they're trained. I don't know what's legal.
Contract.
Yeah.
This should be in your HR program. They need to sign a contract before they're pay for their
Absolutely.
training.
Or a contingency.
There's similar to a lot of trucking companies, they'll pay for the people hire a person on, they'll say, we'll pay for your training, but you have to drive for 2 years.
Correct. And they get their money out
And
of
they
their
get their
training.
money worth, money for that.
And that's a system.
Nurses.
That's
That
yeah,
type of
nursing,
system is what this council's, I believe, looking at pretty stringently.
Do we even have a procedural or guidelines of any kind for the
For that,
For the treatment plant,
for
John?
the treatment plan or the
John?
yes.
John?
John,
somewhere along the line we didn't follow them?
John,
They,
Mayor.
they,
Sorry, hearing.
the,
procedures
Yeah.
are being revised,
Oh, okay.
and they're being revised with the assistance of the operators.
They're about three-quarters done.
And they're helping us craft them, and then we'll bring them to the city council
Very
for
good.
the council to approve. But I want to tip my hat to Nathan and Ernie real quick. We met last month before last, and I said I wanted standard operating procedures drafted for the plant. They've got three-quarters of them done,
Yeah, I mean, it's 800 pages. I mean,
so
it's a lot of pages.
he is, once they get it to a workable draft, then they'll submit it to the council for these guys to review and adopt. But to answer your question, yes, we are
I hate to see people going through this again 10 years from now.
we're trying to be proactive there.
I would like to go over one thing before I took any more questions, because this was a question that was asked in one of the meetings. I don't, well, I do know, it was the November 13th meeting. There was a question that was posed of how much money did the sewer bring in last year? How much money did we bring in? And then the other question was, how much money did the treatment plant cost the city last year? Those were the two questions, and I thought them to be valid and very good questions. Don't write down to the penny, but we're to the penny on some of this stuff, okay? We just took basically year to date. So I'm not talking calendar year, I'm talking November, okay? Employees for a year at the treatment plant was $63,284, okay? Overtime at the treatment plant for that same year, $15,169. Wasting, which is the sludge that we have hauled off, $5,652. Testing, $5,693. Electric, $14,444. Lab testing, $16,477. The total was $120,721 total cost. Okay? So I get those numbers and I think that's low. So I go to looking at them and it is low. Not terribly, but it's a little low. There's some miscellaneous costs that are not in this. Okay? They add up to around $10,000. Something else that I will tell you, that wasting was $5,652. I thought that was low. So I go back and look at how many times we wasted in that November to November season. One time. We generally do it twice. Okay? This particular year, it was one time. So keep in mind that next year, that $5,652, it's going to be $11,000. Because we're going to have to waste twice. So basically 1 year you're going to waste once, the next year twice, the next year once, and it's about the same each time we waste. So total cost, $130,000, $131,000, roughly. That's cost to the city.
There's vehicle costs and insurance ain't in there.
Insurance was in there.
Oh, okay.
Vehicle cost was not, but there's trips to Rolla. What did the treatment plant bring in? How much money did it bring in? That was roughly $205,000. That is what our sewer brought in. Okay? So, the difference, you're probably around $75,000 with your numbers, is that correct? 130 to 205?
74.
Take off $60,000 because we got a bond payment that we make every year. That I cannot classify as treatment plant costs. That is just sewer costs. We have a bond payment of about $60,000. So when you take that $60,000 off, now you're around $15,000 to the good still, right? That's great. However, I'm no banker, but if I was coming in with DNR or one of these agencies we're needing money, right? How are you going to pay me back? You don't have the funds to pay me back. You need to reevaluate your rates to get the funds to do a project that will make a difference. at your treatment.
But we should do that constantly.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, 100%, I agree with that.
You know, you have people that live
100%.
on a fixed income, a
I
lot of
understand.
people that live on a fixed income in this community. And if you would increase the bill at, you know, like
Percentages, 2%
Exactly, well,
or something over
Exactly.
time,
you know,
they adjusted that. It's just this,
Bingo.
the one that we did the last time was
it hurt.
ridiculous.
It was like, what,
Honestly, that was
$25?
the
Well, they
highest.
had to do it they had to do 3 times and do it at a ti- for us to get the sewer bond.
Yep.
That was part of that too.
And
Yeah,
we're
so
looking
we're
at
doing
phased
it.
increases. I know this council has set up, and we have heard a lot of, there's a lot of good ideas that's been coming out as far as phased increases. Do we do it quarterly? Do we do it all at once? It's a $5 to some guys may be like, it's $5, right? But to a lot of people, if you don't have $5, you don't have it.
$5 is diapers or baby
You
formula.
don't have it. And
Plus
maybe a
food
phased
medicine.
increase would help those people. So they're looking at that.
I
That
think
is not,
Quarterly would be easier, because see, that's something that's expected.
Right.
And it's something that you can make a mild adjustment to as it goes. But
that was one
when you
question
slam it
though
at
that I had,
budget-
yes sir.
Go along with that, it's a possibility, and this is throw it out to the council. I know Gas Passage Electric's got a payment where you pay the same, a budgeted
The
payment.
budget thing, yeah.
Budget billing.
Is there any way for the city to set that up? So that the people know that they're gonna pay $60 a month,
Right.
no matter what,
Year round.
year round?
Put it on property taxes.
I don't know,
No.
that's actually never been discussed in the city realm. I mean, honestly, statistically speaking, it should work. If you have a water leak, obviously you're gonna blow it out off the charts. You see what I'm saying? If you have a water leak,
but at the same
but what
time,
you're
by
saying,
the-
it should work.
If you get an excessively high water reading, then that's the time to go by for the city and the person to say, okay, maybe we need to look and see if there's a leak.
And generally, those high rate or high water usages generally lead to a leak of some sort somewhere. But I mean, it's something to think about. That is something to toss on this table and to have them discuss.
Gives the people an idea that, okay, I got X amount of, this is what I got, this is what bills I got every
Right.
month.
Right.
So
And
that
it's
they
a
can
solid
plan a
number.
lot better for them.
Understood. Good idea.
How long has it been since we run smoke tests, by the way?
Last smoke test I know of running, about 2012. That I know of running, that I was actually on.
We used to run them regularly.
Need to. A lot of things happen. There's a lot of stuff, guys. I mean, I've seen breaks in lines caused from
I mean,
people
we really-
driving off in a ditch when it was muddy and they hit a
really
sewer
fallen
line
down
and
on
didn't even know it. But 2012 is the last personal in Dixon that I was on smoke testing. 2012.
5 years ago?
Now they may, I'm not saying it hasn't been done. I'm saying I wasn't here to see it done. I didn't see it done at that time. One thing I would like to see and be discussed, more so than smoke testing. Smoke testing is great, but what do you do when you find smoke coming out of the ground? You go and you smoke test the line and say it's coming right up in the middle of your yard.
No problem.
You got a problem. What do you dig it up? What do you do? I'd like to see it go a step further and go, okay, we marked those problems with flags, and here's where we seen the smoke coming up. Maybe as a community we could go and ask the Pulaski County Sewer District or City of St. Robert or City of Waynesville. They all have sewer cameras. Run up that line to where that flag is and tell me why the smoke's coming out of my sewer line there.
Why don't we
They
have
get
one?
camera. We don't have one.
Why not?
Can't
They're
get
not
rid
that
of the
high.
dilapidated
They're not
houses.
that much.
We can't
We had one
Yeah, they're
available
about
before.
120 grand. They're pretty high. I mean, I'm talking not the push camera. I'm
Yeah, you're
talking
talking
an
about the robot
8-inch,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
robotic, rotatable head, whole 9 yards. About 120 on a used one is what I can come up with. Might find one for 80, but I ain't found one yet for that. They're high.
Oh, I know that.
And then you got more training.
Yeah.
you gotta have, you know, that's a specialty work. You gotta have somebody that knows how to run it, how to run the software and the hardware both. It's computerized, it's, you know, so there's a lot of, but all good points of discussion. Yes.
One thing else you haven't thought about too, you send them guys to school and they get their training, get certification, you're gonna have to give more money or not gonna stay here. So you wasted all that.
Well, they will if they sign a contract before they get the training paid for it.
Yes.
What, 2 or 3 years?
I don't know. I was looking anywhere. You can't go probably over 5 years, but it beats nothing.
Yes. Yeah.
Better than what we got now.
Yeah, but then see, if you don't, you'll be right back
And
where
the
you started.
constant care maybe allow us to give more money as salary.
And I've told this council, and this council's heard me say this 1,000 times, the only thing worse than training your people and them moving off and getting another job is not training them and them staying. That's a fact. Okay? Because then you got a bunch of untrained people running the place. And that's, you got to continually train. And I'll be honest with you right now, guys, the budget that this council has to work with, we will never compete with Waynesville or St. Robert with this budget. Okay? It's
We don't
not,
have the tax money.
it's not in, exactly.
We don't have the tax money.
So for us to think that we can pay our employees what the city of Waynesville or St. Robert or the sewer district or over there in Fort Wood, you're kidding yourself. That's not in the cards.
Pam brought up a good deal about the taxes. Every time you buy something out of the city of Dixon, we lose them taxes.
Yes, sir.
They're gone.
Yes, sir.
Everybody runs to St. Roberts, everybody runs to Raleigh. All them tax dollars never come to Dixon. They're
That's
gone.
right.
That's one best operator. Waynesville.
And there's nothing you can do. And we're not in the position to bargain with those guys. You're just not. There's a study out right now. A dollar turns over 7 times as a community. So when I go into Country Mart or Delano or Betty's or wherever I go and I spend $1 in here, it turns over 7 times before it leaves. That's a lot.
One thing
That's
you
a
all
lot of
need to
money
remember
back to our
this too.
city.
You just don't know this. A lot of people don't know this. Every dollar you spend at Casey's leaves this town tonight at midnight. It's gone. Nobody gets a chance at that dollar.
Unless they take it down.
And all your kids and everybody's kids and everybody run up there every morning, get donuts and gas and what they got to get for lunch, and they're gone. They come back at night, they get their gas and their beer and something to eat, they're gone. And that money leaves here every night at midnight. Straight to the highway and it's gone.
That's true.
Don't pay, you know what? They won't give one bottle of water, one bottle of water for any donations. If anybody needs a donation, they won't give one bottle of free water. But why do we do business with them?
But they do provide a few jobs though. And that money
That's the
does
only thing
stay
they
in this
do.
community.
That's the only
You're
thing they
right.
do.
A good point.
Yeah, I don't want them gone.
I'm not I don't want to represent Casey's or speak out of school, but when I worked with the youth recreational soccer and football programs, they did donate.
Yes, they did. I was shocked because when I was at the nursing home, they wouldn't donate a dime.
They wouldn't donate one bottle of water to the Barnett Benefit Fund at all.
So they have donated to the community. Just
During the
like-
ice storm,
They won't donate no money.
nothing. During
Hey
the ice
guys,
storm,
if there's no other questions, I'd like
That's
to take
fine.
a
Zero.
5-minute break, because I know they got a council meeting coming up just right after this, okay? At 6 o'clock, so I'd like to just,
Thank you, John.
you guys are welcome and good questions, I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, ma'am.
5 minutes.